Lena had been working in the hotel for a few months, and by now she knew almost every corner of the building. She moved quietly through the hallways every morning, holding her cleaning cart and greeting the people she passed. Most of them didn't greet her back, but she never let that bother her. She wasn't there to be noticed. She was there to observe. To the staff, she looked like any other cleaner's simple uniform, soft voice, calm nature. People hardly looked at her twice. Some days she felt invisible. Other days, the rude comments made her pause. But she reminded herself again and again that this was exactly why she had come here. She needed to know what was really happening behind the shiny reviews and marketing photos. She wanted the truth, not reports written to impress her. And the only way to learn the truth was to blend in with the staff, to work beside them, and to see how they behaved when no one thought the owner was watching. That morning started like any other. The lobby was already buzzing with movement. Guests checked out with sleepy faces, suitcases rolled across the floor, and the smell of fresh coffee drifted from the cafe. The reception desk was busy, and behind it stood Naya, one of the few employees who treated everyone kindly. She always acknowledged Lena with a smile, and that small gesture made a bigger difference than she realized. Kindness was rare in the building these days. As Lena reached for the mop, she heard a familiar, sharp voice behind her. "You again. Don't block the hallway. We have guests coming through," the manager Rolf muttered. She turned slightly and nodded politely. "I'll be quick." Rolf didn't even look at her. He was too busy checking his reflection in the glass door. "You should be quick. We don't have time for cleaners slowing down the flow. I don't know why they still keep you here." Lena kept her expression gentle. She wasn't there to argue or defend herself. She simply resumed her work. She wiped the floor with steady hands while people walked past her without noticing her at all. She learned that people often reveal who they truly are when they think no one important is paying attention. A young server stepped out of the hotel cafe carrying plates. He nearly bumped into her and quickly whispered, "Move aside." His voice was low, but the impatience in it was clear. He didn't even wait for her to step away. He just kept walking. Another staff member glanced at her, but turned away as if cleaners were not worth a moment's attention. Lena had seen this pattern again and again. Many staff treated guests with warm smiles, but to each other, and especially to the people doing the more difficult jobs, they showed little respect. She noted these moments quietly, storing them in her mind. She finished the hallway and pushed her cart toward the staircase. Her uniform brushed softly against the railing, her footsteps light as always. She never created chaos or noise. She liked working in silence. It allowed her to listen. Inside one of the guest rooms, she found a towel left on the floor, a leftover wrapper on the bed, and some crumbs on the carpet. The room wasn't bad, and she started cleaning it with her usual focus. But halfway through, she heard loud footsteps entering the doorway. "Rolf, again. What's taking so long?" he demanded. "We have rooms piling up. I don't know why you can't move faster." Lena kept her calm. "I'm almost done." "Well, almost isn't enough. We need quick work, not excuses." He said it loudly, as if he wanted the walls to hear it too. Lena didn't respond this time. She simply continued wiping the desk. Her movements were slow but steady, nothing rushed or sloppy. She believed that the way a person worked reflected who they were, and she wanted her work to speak honestly. But as she reached for the trash bag, she felt a soft tap on her shoulder. She looked up and found Naya standing there with a worried expression. You okay? Naya whispered gently. Lena nodded with a small smile. I'm fine. Sorry about him. He shouldn't talk like that. Everyone has their job. Lena appreciated that. Naya had always been the kind of person who saw everyone as a person, not as a position. It wasn't about status for her. It was about respect. Thank you, Lena replied. Naya smiled back and handed her a small bottle of water. You've been working since morning. You should take a moment. Lena accepted it quietly and felt a warmth in her chest. It was small gestures like this that told her who truly understood hospitality, who genuinely cared about people. She made a mental note of it, knowing it would matter later. After Naya left, Lena finished the room and stepped back into the hallway. She continued her rounds, cleaning room after room, passing through corridors where she heard bits of conversations, sometimes complaints, sometimes laughter, sometimes gossip. She listened, learned, and memorized everything at one point. She walked into the staff lounge to refill her cleaning supplies. 2 workers were sitting inside, chatting with cups of tea. When they saw her, they lowered their voices, but didn't stop talking completely, honestly. I don't get why she's so slow, one of them said. She's too old school, the other answered. And she dresses like she's stuck in the past. Lena wasn't offended. She simply opened a cabinet, grabbed the detergent, and gently placed it in her cart. She had learned long ago that people often reveal more about themselves than the person they talk about. She left the lounge quietly and went back to her tasks. Her mind kept replaying what she had seen since day one. How some staff ignored guest complaints, how others treated junior workers poorly, how people cut corners when no one was watching. And she wondered how many more of these details she would discover before revealing who she really was. By noon, the hotel was buzzing even louder. A group of tourists filled the lobby, asking questions, taking photos, and dragging bags across the shiny floor. Lena was wiping a window nearby when she heard Rolf call someone loudly, "You." "Cleaner," he said sharply. She turned calmly. "Yes, don't clean here right now. You're ruining the atmosphere. Go somewhere out of sight." Out of sight. That phrase replayed in her head for a moment. She nodded without reacting. She moved her cart aside, but before she left, she noticed a guest struggling with a stuck suitcase zip. No staff went to help. They were all too busy pretending to look important. Lena walked to the guest and smiled softly. "Need help?" The guest seemed relieved. Together they fixed a zipper, and the guest thanked her warmly. "You're very kind," the guest said. "Just doing my part," Lena replied. But as soon as she turned around, Rolf appeared again. "Why are you wasting time on guests with personal issues? We have schedules to follow," he snapped. Lena didn't respond. She knew explaining anything to him would only lead to more frustration. She simply pushed her cart toward a quieter corner of the building. What Rolf didn't know, what none of them knew, was that every rude comment and every ignored moment was another piece of truth falling into place. She was learning exactly why guests had been complaining lately. She was seeing why the hotel wasn't running smoothly. The problem wasn't the cleaning staff or the guests. The problem was how some employees treated people they thought were below them. And Lena had seen enough to understand one thing. Clearly, respect in this hotel had become a fragile thing. Some people offered it, but many didn't. And those who didn't treat others well would soon face the consequences. She reached the end of her shift, but didn't stop working. She never left on time. She used the quiet afternoon to take notes in her small notebook, notes about behaviors, interactions, moments of kindness, moments of arrogance. She wrote everything down in simple words so she could remember it clearly later. As she put the notebook away, she looked around at the building she secretly owned, its tall ceilings, polished floors, wide windows, and warm lights. To the world, the hotel looked perfect, but inside it had cracks no one could see unless they looked closely, and she had looked closely for weeks now. She had been patient. She had been quiet. She had allowed every moment to unfold naturally. But she knew that soon, very soon, she would no longer walk these halls in a cleaner's uniform. She would no longer nod and stay silent when someone spoke down to her. She would no longer hide behind a mop or a cart, because this place was hers, and the people who had forgotten how to treat others with dignity were about to face a truth they never saw coming. The next morning began with unusual tension in the air. The hotel had received notice that an important inspection might happen soon, and everyone seemed more alert than usual. Staff walked faster, talked louder, and kept fixing small things around the lobby. Even the scent of fresh flowers felt stronger, as if the hotel itself was trying to impress someone. Lena started her day quietly, as always. She arrived early, changed into her uniform, tied her hair neatly, and collected her cleaning cart. The corridors were still half asleep, with dim lights and soft footsteps echoing through them. She liked this time of day. It was peaceful, and she could finish a good amount of work before the guests woke up. But today's calm didn't last long. As she reached the second floor, she heard hurried footsteps approaching. It was Rolf. His face looked more serious than usual, and his tone was sharp even before he opened his mouth. "There you are," he said. "Why are you still on this floor? You should have started on the top floor already." Lena had barely begun her shift. She looked at him calmly. "I'm following the schedule like every day." "Well, today is different," he snapped. "We have a possible inspection. Everything must be perfect. So please, try to move faster. We can't afford slow work right now." She nodded without arguing. Even though his words were harsh, she kept her voice soft. "I'll manage it." But Rolf didn't stop there. He folded his arms and added loudly, "Just don't cause delays. The last thing we need is someone like you holding us back." His voice echoed down the hall, and a couple of staff nearby turned to watch. Lena felt their eyes on her, but she didn't react. She simply continued pushing her cart towards the next room, leaving his comments behind her like dust she didn't need to carry. Inside the room, she took a deep breath and began cleaning. She worked carefully, placing everything exactly where it belonged, making the bed smooth and neat, polishing surfaces until they reflected the light. Her motions were slow but steady. She never rushed because she believed that rushing only led to mistakes. After 10 minutes, the door swung open again. "Why is this room not done yet?" Rolf demanded from the doorway. Lena turned calmly. "I'm almost finished." "I don't want almost," he said. "I want it done, quickly. We're not running a slow village hotel here." His words felt heavy, but she didn't let them shake her. She simply nodded and continued working. She knew that arguing would only create more noise and disrespect, and she wasn't here for that. She was here to understand the real problems in the hotel, and every harsh comment from Rolf only confirmed what she already suspected after he left. She finished the room and moved on to the next one. This time, she encountered Naya in the hallway. The receptionist was carrying a stack of towels. Helping the cleaning staff, because she noticed how busy they were. When she saw Lena, she stopped and frowned lightly. "He talked to you like that again, didn't he?" Lena gave her a small smile. "It's all right. I'm used to it. But you shouldn't have to be," Naya replied gently. "Everyone here works hard. No one deserves to be spoken to like they don't matter." Lena appreciated her words. She felt her chest warm with gratitude. "Thank you. It means a lot. Let me help you with something," Naya offered. "You look like you have a lot today." Lena shook her head softly. "I'm fine. You already do enough." Naya nodded, but her eyes still showed worry. Before she walked away, she placed a small wrapped biscuit on the corner of Lena's cart. "In case you don't get a break later," she whispered. Small gestures like that stayed with Lena long after people walked away. She tucked the biscuit into her pocket and returned to work. As the hours passed, the hotel grew louder. More guests arrived, phones rang non-stop, housekeeping carts moved quickly through hallways, and the kitchen sent out trays of breakfast plates. In the middle of all this, Lena kept moving steadily through her tasks. Around noon, things took a turn. Lena was cleaning near the elevator when a family accidentally spilled a drink on the floor. The mother apologized repeatedly, worried that she had caused trouble. "It's all right," Lena said kindly. "No issue at all. I'll clean it right away." But before she could begin, Rolf appeared again too fast, as if he had been watching from behind a corner. "What happened now?" he demanded. "It was an accident," Lena said gently. "I'll take care of it." Rolf didn't listen. Instead, he looked at the family and forced a smile so wide it almost looked painful. "We apologize for the inconvenience," he said politely to them. "Our staff will handle it." But the moment the guests walked away, he turned back to Lena and spoke harshly again. "Why are you still standing there? Clean it up. I don't want guests complaining that the floor looks messy." "I was going to," she replied softly. "Then do it faster," he snapped, lowering his voice but keeping the anger. "Honestly, if you can't handle a simple task, maybe this job isn't for you." She didn't reply. She knelt down and cleaned the floor slowly and carefully, making sure every drop was gone. She didn't rush even when he hovered over her, breathing impatience. When she stood up again, he was already gone, walking away to scold someone else. Moments later, as she wheeled her cart away, she almost bumped into an older guest standing quietly in the hallway. His suitcase looked heavy, and he seemed tired. Lena smiled gently at him. "Would you like help with that?" The man looked relieved. "If you don't mind. My room is far down the hall, of course. I'll help you." She walked with him, carrying his suitcase while he explained he had traveled all night and barely slept. She listened patiently, trying to make him feel comfortable. When they reached his room, he thanked her warmly. "You're very kind," he said. "Not everyone takes the time." Lena smiled. "I'm glad I could help." But as she turned to leave, she saw Rolf standing at the end of the hallway with a frustrated expression. "What are you doing now?" he asked as he approached. "Why are you carrying guests' luggage?" "That's not your job. I was just helping," she said quietly. "Helping is fine," he said, "but not when it slows down your actual work. You need to focus. We have standards here." The guest who heard the tone frowned lightly, but before he could say anything, Lena gave him a reassuring smile, as if asking him not to worry. The last thing she wanted was to make the guest feel awkward. After the guest closed his door, Rolf continued, "I swear, sometimes I think you enjoy wasting time. If I report this to the owner, I don't know what they'll say. Lena looked at him, still calm, still polite, still quiet. She wondered what he would say if he knew who she truly was. But this wasn't the time to reveal anything. Not yet. That afternoon, the staff lounge was full of chatter again. People were stressed because of the possible inspection. Some complained about guests. Some complained about their workload. And a few complained directly or indirectly about Lena. I saw her helping a guest with luggage. One cleaner whispered, "She's nice, but she's too slow for this job." Another replied, "We need people who move fast. Rolf is already annoyed with her." Someone else added, "I hope she doesn't bring trouble for all of us." Lena walked in quietly, hearing their words, but forcing herself not to react. She filled her spray bottles, collected fresh cloths, and left the room without interrupting anyone. She didn't blame them. People were repeating what they heard from their manager. People were stressed, and people often judge others without knowing the full story. By late afternoon, her feet ached and her arms felt tired. But she continued working. This was the part of the day when the hotel slowly calmed down and she could reflect on things more clearly. She looked around at the hotel that belonged to her, its polished floors, its decorated walls, the gentle music playing in the background, every rude comment she heard today, every moment someone tried to silence her or push her aside, was a reminder of why she had chosen to work undercover in the first place. She needed to see how people behaved when they thought no one important was around. And today had shown her more than enough as she cleaned the last hallway of the day. A thought settled deep inside her. Things had gone too far. Too much disrespect, too much arrogance, too many moments that showed the hotel had lost its heart. And soon, very soon, she would have to step forward. Not as the cleaner they dismissed, but as the person who had built this place with her own hands. But for now, she walked away quietly, letting the staff believe she was just another worker in a simple uniform, unaware that she held the future of every person in that building in her hands. The next day began with a strange kind of energy, tense, fast, and full of whispers. Even before Lena arrived at the hotel, messages were already spreading among the staff. Someone had checked the email sent late last night, and within minutes the entire building knew. The owner was coming, no one knew when, no one knew why, and no one knew what to expect. All they knew was that the visit would happen today, and everyone was terrified of being caught doing something wrong. It was as if the air itself had become sharp, pushing everyone to watch their actions twice, sometimes 3 times. When Lena walked into the staff entrance, she instantly noticed the shift. Some people were cleaning things that hadn't been touched in years. Some were organizing papers that were normally scattered. Even the usually noisy kitchen had a quieter tone, as if the pots and pans were afraid to make a sound. She walked calmly to the locker room, changed into her uniform, and tied her apron. The fabric felt the same, and the room looked the same, but something in the atmosphere felt heavier. She could sense the nervousness in every corner as she stepped into the hallway with her cleaning cart. 2 housekeepers hurried past her. "Did you hear?" One whispered loudly. "The owner is arriving today." "Yeah, and Rolf wants everything perfect," the other replied. "He's checking every detail like crazy." Lena smiled faintly. If only they knew the truth. If only they knew the owner had been among them all this time, silently watching. But today was not the moment to reveal it. There was a way these things had to unfold. She continued her routine, sweeping gently, wiping surfaces, doing the simple tasks she had been doing every day. But strangely, nobody complained this morning. No one told her to hurry. No one threw rude comments her way. Instead, they seemed too stressed about the owner's arrival to say much at all. Even Rolf seemed different. He walked quickly through the hallways, his shirt tucked in tighter than usual, his hair combed neatly, a fake polite smile stuck on his face. He barked orders at everyone, but there was a new edge in his tone of fear that hadn't been there yesterday, when he spotted Lena cleaning a mirror near the lobby entrance. He approached her. "You," he said, but his voice wasn't harsh this time. It was controlled, forced. "Make sure you don't stay anywhere near the main lobby today. Understand? The owner will come through there. We want things to look polished." She turned to him, keeping her face calm. "I'm just cleaning, like always." "Yes, well." He coughed lightly, adjusting his collar. "Just finish quickly. Stay out of sight once guests arrive." Out of sight again. He repeated that phrase so often that Lena almost felt like it had become her name in his mind. She didn't argue. She just nodded and moved on. She spent the next hour cleaning rooms and hallways quietly. Many of the areas were already spotless because everyone had been cleaning non-stop since sunrise. But still, she wiped and dusted, working at her steady pace as she passed through the third-floor corridor. She noticed a group of employees gathered in a small circle, whispering nervously. When they saw her walking by, they stopped talking and pretended to be busy. She continued walking, pretending she didn't notice. By mid-morning, an announcement came through the hotel's internal system, telling all department heads to gather in the large meeting room in half an hour. Lena heard the message clearly, though it wasn't meant for her. She quietly carried on with her tasks, but her heart felt a small shift. The moment she had been preparing for was getting closer. The day she would no longer wear the uniform of a cleaner. The day they would see her for who she truly was. The day everything would change, but she wanted it to happen naturally. She didn't want to walk into the meeting room and announce her name dramatically. She wanted the staff to understand why she had spent so long observing them. She wanted them to listen, not fear her. When the time came, she pushed her cart toward the meeting room area. Staff were hurrying inside, adjusting their shirts, fixing their hair, whispering nervously. Even the usually confident restaurant supervisor looked uneasy. Lena stood outside for a moment and watched everyone settle into their seats. They were sitting straight, hands folded, eyes stuck on the door where they believed the owner would enter. The room was filled with polished shoes and stiff backs. Then something unexpected happened. Rolf saw her standing near the entrance and quickly rushed toward her with wide eyes. "What are you doing here?" he whispered sharply. "You shouldn't be anywhere near this room." She looked at him calmly. "Why not?" "This meeting is for important people," he said, lowering his voice even more. "You're a cleaner. You need to wait outside or go back to your floor." "I'd like to attend," she replied softly. His face tightened. "No, you can't. This is not for you. Please leave before the owner arrives. This is embarrassing." Lena didn't move. She simply stood there, still and steady. Members of the staff nearby began to whisper as they saw her standing in front of the door, not walking away. Some looked confused. Some looked annoyed. A few looked curious. Suddenly, the room fell silent as Lena stepped inside. People stared. Some frowned. Others exchanged looks. Rolf rushed behind her, trying to explain. "I'm so sorry, everyone. I don't know why she walked, and she shouldn't be here." Must be confused, but Lena didn't look confused at all. She walked calmly to the front of the room. The soft sound of her shoes echoed against the polished floor. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't gesture dramatically. And she didn't seem nervous. She simply took off her cleaning apron, folded it carefully, and placed it on the table. The room went silent. All eyes were on her. Rolf stared, confused and frustrated. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "This is not a joke. You cannot stand here." Lena finally lifted her eyes, meeting his gaze clearly for the first time. "I'm here," she said softly, "because I'm the person you've been preparing this meeting for." The silence grew even heavier. One person gasped quietly. Another dropped a pen. A chair creaked as someone shifted in shock. Rolf blinked rapidly. What do you mean?" She took a slow breath. "I'm the owner of this hotel." The words floated through the room like a warm wind suddenly entering cold air. The staff didn't move. Some of them opened their mouths but couldn't speak. Others lowered their eyes in disbelief. Rolf's face slowly lost all color. He stepped back, bumping into a chair. You can't be," he stuttered. But Lena simply reached into her pocket and placed a small folder on the table. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. Inside were the ownership documents, simple papers, but powerful enough to rewrite every assumption in the room. A soft murmur traveled across the staff. Some leaned forward. Some leaned back. Some held their breath. Lena looked around the room, her voice calm, gentle, and steady. "I've been working here for months," she said. "Not because I needed the job, but because I needed to understand what was happening behind the scenes. Our guests have been leaving honest feedback, and I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes." No one spoke. Everyone listened. "I met wonderful people here," she continued. "People who work hard, who show kindness, who treat others with respect. And I've also seen moments where respect was missing, where small roles were treated as unimportant." Her eyes moved slowly around the room. Some employees lowered their heads, suddenly remembering their own actions. "I didn't come here today to embarrass anyone," she said. "I came to help this place grow again. But we cannot grow if we forget one simple truth. Every person in this building matters. Every role matters, and how we treat each other matters most of all." The room stayed silent, but this time it wasn't out of fear. It was out of reflection. Rolf finally spoke, his voice trembling. I didn't know. I didn't realize." "I know," Lena replied gently. "That's why I came as a cleaner, so I could see how people behave when they think no one important is watching." He swallowed hard, the weight of his actions settling on his shoulders. In that moment, every person in the room understood something clearly. The cleaner they ignored, the cleaner they dismissed, the cleaner they asked to stay out of sight, had been the one watching them the entire time. The morning after the staff meeting, the hotel felt different. People were more alert, more careful, more aware of how they spoke and behaved. Some looked nervous, some embarrassed, and some quietly hopeful that things might turn around for the better. The corridors that once echoed careless whispers and jokes now felt respectful and calm. In the middle of that shift in atmosphere, the woman quietly walked through the lobby with a calm smile. She wasn't wearing the cleaner's uniform anymore. She didn't look like the person they once ignored or mocked. Instead, she carried herself with the ease of someone who knew her place not just in the hotel, but in her own life. But she wasn't walking around to show off. She genuinely wanted to see how everyone behaved now that the truth was out. She wanted to see who was ready to grow and who still had old habits to break. When she reached the reception desk, the young receptionist who once made fun of her lowered her eyes nervously. Her hands trembled slightly as she greeted her. This time she didn't force a smile or fake confidence. She seemed truly sorry. Before the girl could say a word, the woman gently spoke. "Relax. I'm not here to scold anyone today. I'm just checking how the morning shift is running." The receptionist nodded quickly, almost too quickly, as if trying to show she was taking things seriously. The woman could see that the girl was trying her best. Mistakes and bad behavior could be corrected if someone was genuinely willing to change. After asking a few questions about check-ins and guest feedback, she stepped away from the counter and walked toward the housekeeping area. When she entered, the room went silent for a moment. Everyone straightened their backs, trying to act perfect, but she lifted her hand slightly. "You don't need to freeze up. I used to be part of this team too," she said with a soft laugh. The team relaxed a little. Some smiled out of relief, others because they remembered how she had always helped them when they were overwhelmed. Even before anyone knew who she really was, one older employee stepped forward slowly, looking deeply ashamed. "I wanted to apologize," he said. "We didn't treat you right. You were kind to all of us, and we didn't respect that." The woman looked at him with gentle eyes. There was no anger in her face, no desire to punish or make him feel small. "Everyone deserves a chance to do better," she replied. "I remember how hard you work. That matters too." He nodded, wiping a hand nervously over his forehead, and the whole room seemed to breathe easier. She didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Instead, she wanted to build a workplace where people felt safe, respected, and appreciated, something she wished she had when she was younger and struggling to make ends meet. As she continued her walk through the hotel, she reached the staff cafeteria. The moment she stepped inside, the manager who had mocked her the most stood up from one of the tables. His face was pale, his posture stiff, and he looked almost afraid to speak. He had been quiet since the revelation the previous day. Many employees expected him to be fired immediately. Even he expected it, but the woman had a different philosophy. He slowly approached her, swallowing hard. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said quietly. "I acted horribly. I disrespected you. I disrespected a lot of people, and I wouldn't blame you if you asked me to leave." She looked at him steadily. She remembered all his harsh comments, all the times he dismissed her work, all the times he encouraged others to look down on her. But she also remembered the importance of giving people a chance to learn. "Everyone deserves honesty," she began, "and the truth is you were wrong. Deeply wrong. Not just with me, but with other staff too. Positions don't give anyone the right to treat others badly." He lowered his head. "But," she continued, "you also have potential. I've seen how efficiently you run the departments. You're committed to the job. You just needed to learn how to respect people." He looked up slowly, not expecting her to say anything positive. "So," she finished, "I'm not firing you. But you will go through training, real leadership training, and you will treat everyone with dignity. If you fail at that, then we'll talk again." The man let out a breath he had probably been holding since the previous day. His eyes glistened slightly, and he nodded. "I won't waste this chance," he said, after leaving the cafeteria. The woman checked on different departments: laundry, kitchen, room service, front desk, and security. Everywhere she went, she saw small but meaningful changes. People were polite. They spoke softly. They helped each other instead of pushing work onto others. The whole place felt like it had taken a deep breath and decided to start fresh. Later that afternoon, she went to her officer, real officer, the first time in a while. The large window overlooked the main street, and the sunlight fell softly across the desk. It felt strange sitting there again. For days, she had been blending in with the cleaning team. She had seen the hotel from the ground level, not as an owner, but as a regular worker. She realized something important. When leaders stay too far away from everyday work, they lose touch with what their staff truly experiences. A soft knock on her door pulled her back from her thoughts. "Come in," she said. It was the same receptionist from earlier. She stepped in slowly, holding something in her hands, a small card. "I made this for you," the young woman said, her voice nervous but sincere. "I know I wasn't respectful before. I'm really sorry. I just wanted you to know that I'm learning." The woman opened the card. Inside, written in simple handwriting, was a message. "Thank you for giving people chances, even when they don't deserve them." It warmed her heart. Not because of the apology, but because it showed that people really were trying to grow. "You don't have to be perfect," the woman told her. "Just be kinder than you were yesterday." The girl smiled shyly and nodded before leaving the room. That evening, the woman walked through the lobby again. Some guests passed by, unaware of everything that had happened in the last 2 days. To them, it was just a beautiful hotel. But to the staff, this place had become something more, a reminder of how important respect and humility truly were. Near the entrance, she saw 2 housekeepers talking quietly. They didn't notice her at first. She heard one of them say, "I still can't believe she was the owner this whole time. I feel so guilty for the way people treated her." The other one replied softly, "At least she's giving us all a chance." That says a lot about her. She didn't interrupt them. Instead, she stepped outside and stood under the evening sky. Cool air brushed against her face, and she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from winning or proving someone wrong, but the peace that comes from seeing growth in others. The next few days went smoothly. Staff members worked together like a team, not competitors. Even the manager, who used to snap at everyone, began showing patience. He took notes, listened to suggestions, and even asked the cleaning team for feedback, something nobody expected from him. The woman quietly observed from the background. She didn't make big announcements. She didn't remind people of her position. She didn't use her power to intimidate anyone. Instead, she let her actions speak. One afternoon, the same manager walked up to her, holding a file. "I've made some changes," he said. "New schedules that reduce exhaustion for the cleaning staff. And a new rule: everyone rotates responsibilities so no one feels lesser than anyone else." She took the file, scanned it, and nodded approvingly. "This is good," she said. "This is leadership." The man smiled for the first time in days. By the end of the week, the hotel's atmosphere had completely transformed. Staff members worked with pride. Guests noticed the improved service. Complaints almost disappeared. Even laughter returned, genuine laughter, not the mocking kind from before. On the last evening of the week, the woman stood in the middle of the lobby just as the sun was setting. The light filtered through the tall glass windows, painting everything in a warm glow. Staff members walked by, greeting her with respect, not fear. Not fake admiration, but real appreciation. She didn't need to say anything. She simply smiled, because she had proven something important, not just to the staff, but to herself. True leadership isn't about showing power, it's about showing heart. And sometimes, the people who seem the least important on the outside carry the biggest strengths within, through patience, kindness, and quiet strength. She reminded everyone that respect is not given based on job titles, but on how we treat each other as human beings. And from that day forward, the hotel didn't just run better, it felt better. It became the kind of place she always dreamed it could be, a place where everyone, no matter their role, felt valued, heard, and seen.